While the war raged in Europe, war in Italy was also underway. On July 10, 1943, the Allies invaded Sicily in an operation known as Operation Husky. By September 3rd, the Italian army had surrendered and Rome was declared an open city. However, the German army in Italy fought on. Back in the United States, Pappa left San Luis Obispo, California, and reported to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, for officer candidate school. Mama and Dad accompanied him. After several months of training, just a few weeks shy of his commission, Pappa came down with pneumonia after crawling through ice-cold water in a barbed wire infiltration course. Rather than starting the program over, Pappa opted to be sent overseas immediately. He was granted a 7-day furlough to take Mama and Dad back home. On January 14, 1945, Pappa left Camp Perry, Virginia, and boarded the USS General Richardson, bound for Naples, Italy.
It was a troop transport, brand new troop transport. It'd only been on the shakedown cruise. It was in the winter time, and the weather, as long as the weather was pretty well, we'd get out on deck and enjoy just being out there and watching the ocean. So we traveled on a pretty good clip. Anyway, I took a couple of days out, 3. The weather got really bad, like the weather we'll get in the Atlantic in the wintertime. Big old rolling waves and the ship up and down, rocking, bucking back and forth. And the weather, it was so bad they wouldn't let us out on the deck because they're afraid somebody would get washed off or something. So
Wow.
they fastened us up down in the hole where we slept.
What were the bunks like?
Oh, they were 3 or 4 bunks high, just canvas bunks that folded down. You could fold them up or fold them down to lay in them. The first guy that got sick in our group was the guy on the bottom bunk, so there wasn't no way he's going to sit. So pretty well everybody just left their bunks down, and the ones that were sick just lay in them.
14 days later, the General Richardson docked in Naples, Italy, and Pappa reported to the redeployment depot, where he was assigned to the 19th Combat Engineer Regiment of the 1st Armored Division of the 2nd Corps of Clark's 5th Army. Because of his OCS training, Pappa was made platoon commander of the 3rd Platoon and promoted to Staff Sergeant. He spent his first few months in Italy training to remove and defuse the deadly mines like S-mines or bounding Bettys. Since fighting was at a temporary stalemate, Pappa and his engineers did a lot of road repair in preparation for the coming Allied offensive.
They'd blown out a big portion of the road, just caved up. It's on the hills, you know, and it's down. So I had to rivet around, build a place to hold the dirt so we could fill the hole back up. And we're there getting it done late at night in the dark. And the German, for some reason or other, you know, started shelling there. Well, when the shell comes over, you know, it makes a terrible noise. But thank goodness, the ones that get you, the ones you don't hear.
You don't hear.
Anyway, they come whistling over there, and that little lieutenant dived off down into that hole on some of my people. And I got him out of there. We finished the job. We got back to the company. I told the company commander, I said, don't ever send that guy with us anymore. He's not worth killing. So he never did. He never did.
With the approach of spring, the 1st Armored Division began to move towards the Apennine Mountains in preparation for the coming Allied assault. Pappa was a young sergeant, far from home, facing the unknown, with only pictures to remind him of the loved ones left behind.
I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away, so I've been telling old stories, singing songs that make me think about where I came from. And that's the reason why I seem so far away today. Let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Sitting here before the fire, the empty room, the forest choir, the flames that couldn't get any higher, well, they've withered now, they've gone. But I'm steady thinking, my way is clear, and I know what I will do tomorrow. When the hands have shaken and the kisses flowed, well, I will disappear. Let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
The long prepared for Allied offensive began on April Fool's Day, 1945, with carpet bombing and heavy artillery bombardment.
And if that wasn't one heck of a day, the ground would just rumble, just shake and rumble, shake and rumble, shake and rumble. We were up there. We had pitched little pup tents, and we were staying pretty close, getting ready for when they got through with all of their bombing, we could take off.
By April 20th, the Allied armies had broken out from the mountains and were racing across the Po Valley. The Allies had destroyed the bridges crossing the Po River, trapping the German army. By April 28th, all river crossings were in Allied hands, and the Allied armies began taking German prisoners of war. German General Wiedinghoff surrendered his army on May 2nd, thus ending the Italian campaign. Staff Sergeant William Benton McGuire, Jr. of the 19th Combat Engineers was awarded 2 battle stars for the Apennine and Po Valley campaigns. While the war in Italy was drawing to a close, Americans at home were about to confront a new tragedy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fulton Lewis, Jr. speaking from the Mutual Studios in New York City. This nation has suffered this day a staggering loss. At this moment at Warm Springs, Georgia, President Franklin D. Roosevelt lies with the problems of the nation finally lifted from his shoulders, stricken late this afternoon with cerebral hemorrhage.
The country grieved the loss of the man who had led the nation through the Great Depression and guided them through war. Vice President Harry Truman was sworn in as the 33rd President of the United States.